I think we should finish off the career with Renegades. I mean, to be fair, there's not a huge amount more that I really wanted to sort of touch on. Obviously, you went to the Antwerp Major as well, which was another PGL Major.
Yeah.
This was another one where, you know, I guess like the results weren't necessarily there, right? 0-3, you get knocked out. I think particularly what made that painful would have been a 0-2 against IHC as like the final game.
Yeah, so that major, I think about a week or two before we swapped IGLs. So Sicko was IGLing. I think Inns wasn't really enjoying IGLing much at the time.
Yeah.
And, you know, and then we decided to swap. And obviously 1 or 2 weeks of Simon IGLing. Not enough time. Nothing wrong or anything against.
Are you still playing like... Okay,
Sicko.
so this is another interesting... And I know this is a bit of a tangent, but like, are you still sort of playing like the same strats when you swap your IGL? Because like, surely with that amount of time, it's
if you don't have that much time, you play similar. But in terms of the mid-rounding and
that's
what you actually call in different rounds would be a little bit different.
Yeah.
So it is similar, and you wouldn't really add or change.
But you've got like,
much.
okay, this is our A take, this is our B take.
Yeah,
this is how we try to take mid or whatever.
So yeah, it's just a different perspective on the game, but it wouldn't change much. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, look, is there really much to touch on when it comes to that major? Obviously, the results weren't really there.
It was kind of hard to expect much because, again, like Sicko started IGLing, and obviously nothing against him, but you can't expect some extraordinary. Maybe we should win a map somewhere, right, or do some sort of damage, but the expectation, or at least for me, I kind of knew that we were at a weak point because it's new IGL and new roles again, like Josh is lurking, etc. It's different. So
so obviously you go through that. Was there like issues with Renegades at the time? If I remember rightly, like Renegades as an org just sort of disappeared. You know what I mean? Or did you get bought out by Order before then? Or?
So before the major was when we were transferring to Order.
But it hadn't gone.
But no one obviously knew about it, the public. But that was the period when we were transferring. And then that was the period where we swapped IGLs as well. And then that was the period where they wanted Vexite in the team. And then it was like just a weird period. But yeah, it was before the major. That major, Antwerp.
Yep.
And then, then after that major, we played 2 more tournaments.
2 more.
Yeah.
How would you say Renegades was as an org? Like, were they kind of hands-on or hands-off? It seems like they didn't really do much.
They were hands-off, which was super good.
It was just like Greyhound.
It was good because you didn't really have... They weren't really had crazy expectations. They, want you to make the major. They want you to have make sure you're number 1 in Oz, right? Have somewhat decent results overseas, but they weren't pushy performance, pushing heaps, right? They were hands off, which was a good thing. In general, there were some issues I probably can't talk about, but there were issues. But I mean, every business has issues, and there's obviously in business there's going to be, some people that kind of do things that aren't ethical, maybe. But yeah, I mean, over the course of the 2 years or whatever it was, they were hands off. They, paid us well, etc. And I don't really have huge issues against them, really.
Yeah.
So
sweet. So how does like the whole Order thing actually even come up then? Because does someone from Order come to you, or are you like looking for a different org?
No, so Renegades wanted to sell. And
they were in a bit of trouble because obviously Renegades at this point doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
So they were, I think, trying to offload.
They just didn't want to expend the cash anymore. They don't want to. I mean, I'm pretty sure they could afford it, but I think they were running. I mean, look, they said they were running at a loss. Not entirely sure they were. Because of certain selling Mythar, selling whatever the case may be. Maybe it is, I don't know. But they were running at a loss per se, and they wanted to sell. So then they were looking for orgs to sell to, and then Order managed to pop up. And I mean, we had the conversation about either making our own org or going under Greyhound. But at the time, it was it was right before the major, so we couldn't really think about this sort of thing before it. We just had to practice, especially with the Simon IGLing. So it was just a period of a weird period of time, but it eventually did become order. So
did any of that ever like affect the major at all? Like, do you think that this sort of weird period, this turmoil, or like, because it's one of those conversations that like we always have on a broadcast, and I'm always sort of in the back of my mind, I'm like, you know, is this really a thing, or are we like overselling it a little bit too much?
It is a thing, because when you're moving orgs and stuff, obviously the next thing that happens is like, are you fully secure financially? Right? And obviously it might be a bit privileged or like a bit spoilt to, you know, say, you know, we're getting paid a full-time salary playing, you know, but it is one of those things that where you're financially supporting yourself through this. Now you're moving orgs, right? It's a bit of a question mark. It is a little bit more stressful, right? Then we got to think about if we want to go, if we want to do. Then there's all these new contracts. Then there's all the sticker money. All these things pop up, and then we have to play as well. There is definitely a little bit of
something in the back of your mind which you don't really want.
A little bit for sure.
Yeah. So, you know, obviously, Renegades goes on to get picked up by Order. You played a couple more events like the ESL Pro League Conference in Cologne. Yeah. But again, like none of these results were like super standout or anything like that. And then we get to the point where you are now out of the team. So what you were sort of alluding to a little bit earlier with Vexite, you know, I sort of like to delve into the mind of a player here. Is like, I don't know. Do players always know when they're like kind of on the ropes, or do they not always know? Do you know what I mean? Like it seems like you knew.
I had a sense for a while, but I made it. I kind of affected myself thinking about it too much. Yeah. Because I knew that Order after every event wanted to keep pushing for a roster change for Vexite to come in. Yeah. And I knew that I was more likely the person to be chosen just because of the style, you know. So I did let that affect me. That's my own fault. But you know, it's funny because the conversation when Josh told me at the house, he's like, because I've known Ins for a while, right? Yeah. I know when, and he's also someone. When something's up? I know when something's up, but he's also someone, like people don't know, but when you obviously live with someone for so long, Ins is the type of person that doesn't really like confrontation that much, right? So I know when there's something serious, especially in his face, I can tell. Yeah. So I was finishing a pug and he's like, "Oh, I got to talk to you about something."
You never want to hear those kinds of words.
No.
That's the problem. Is like you instantly know that something's up.
And I was like, "Oh, I'm getting kicked on." Yeah. And he's like, "Yeah." And then I basically said, I was like, "Fair enough." I literally said, "Fair enough."
What can you say really at that point? Like,
like it's one of those things where like I'm not gonna go fight it. I'm not gonna go and cause a ruckus. Right. I'm not gonna go hate on everyone. You know, I'm not that type of person. I'm the type of person that, okay, something's happened, just like the role thing. Something's happened, okay, deal with it, move on. What's next? Yeah. Okay. And no hard feelings. So, yeah, I still remember I said, you know, fair enough. And
did you say it's
and I was like, I asked, he's like, he said, you know, if you have any questions, let me know. And I was like, oh, who you guys getting? You guys get Vexite? And then I was like, the next thing I wanted to know was, you know, was it a team thing? Like, was it a team decision? Because for me, right, if a team makes a decision, right, and there was issues, if they had issues with me, I would like to know about the issues because I want to fix it, right? Because, you know, if you have something to tell me that I'm doing something either wrong or you know, there's something I can improve on, I'm always going to process it and try to improve on it, or, you know, at least get that feedback. Yep. But he said that it wasn't really a team thing. It was more so a change just for a change. This isn't your fault.
Yeah.
It's not like your performances or anything related to CS made the team play bad. We were all playing bad.
Yeah.
And after he said that, I felt better. And after he said that, I also kind of knew that it was more of a management thing. And with Order pushing for the roster change. So, and obviously I did get confirmation later that Sicko did say that he had no, he told me that he had no affiliation with the decision.
Right.
So it just, I wasn't really fishing for information, but I was just kind of getting an understanding of what's happened.
So you almost feel like again, and this is a conversation that I had with Brace. It was like, you know, when you are the one that's getting removed from the team, it almost feels like a breakup, like, you know, like a relationship breakup.
Yeah,
in a way,
a little
where
bit,
it's like, once those words are said, it's like there's no real taking it back. I feel like there's this sort of break in trust almost, like at least as far as a relationship is concerned. It's like, okay, I want to break up with you. It's like, okay, well, you can't take those words back. You know what I mean? And once they're said, regardless of you say, oh, you know, I didn't mean it, or you know what I mean? So, but what I'm trying to get is like the sense from you is that like you almost felt like maybe you weren't broken up with in this sense. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like the team betrayed you, cut you or something like that. So
that's why. Like, even if that was the case, I still wouldn't have anything against anyone.
Sure, but it hurts more,
but
right?
It does hurt more. And obviously, after a relationship breakup, you kind of rationalize,
I did this or that.
Did I do the wrong thing? And
Yeah.
was it the right decision if you're breaking up with someone? So I was kind of doing that a little bit. I was like, okay, like if I had an issue, I want to find out what the issue is. And I was getting a sense that it wasn't really, people weren't really giving me this idea that people within the team had an issue with me. It was just more that they needed to make a change.
Something had to change.
Just to have a change.
Yeah.
To bring in Declan, obviously a very good player.
Yep.
And just to change the team dynamic, right?
Yep.
And, you know, and that's what I got out of it.
I think it was quite a tough period for Greyhound, and like probably even at this point, maybe it still is debatably, or I guess at that time they were Order. You know, there's obviously you in a sense kind of have the hopes of all of ANZ on your shoulders as that team, and if the results aren't necessarily there, even if internally within the team you're like, okay, things are pretty good, like we think we're playing pretty well, or we don't have an issue with the team. Is there ever a sentiment or a situation where like that outside pressure kind of weighs on that a little bit? Is it like, okay, well, it's been like, I don't know how long, maybe 12 months or something since we made a change. Results aren't there. We need to make a change to sort of appease that sentiment? Or is that reading into it too much?
I don't... If a team was making a decision...
And I'm not even necessarily talking about your situation. I'm just talking in general.
I'm just trying to put it into a situation... I don't think a team is thinking that ever. Because we're not caring about what people think on the outside. Obviously, we look at results objectively and CS performance, and that's what I think decisions are made based off. But I think in that situation, I don't know. I think maybe the Order management were kind of looking at it from an outside perspective,
right?
That we weren't getting that many results.
Yep.
I mean, they had that kind of bias of pushing Declan in.
If anyone that doesn't know, he was obviously on Order.
Yeah, he was on Order.
Renegades being picked up by Order.
So, so they already kind of wanted Declan or Vexite in the team.
Yeah.
So then there was the push, and then everything just happened to be together. Yeah.
So what's your like immediate response? Right, you're still obviously in the house. You're just
I'm in the house.
So what do you do?
It's a crazy.
Everyone does everyone know?
There's a crazy story afterwards because you're
going upstairs. It's like Sicko's like, hey man, looking forward to scrims tonight. It's like, I got some news for you, bro.
Yeah, so I'm going up. I literally leave because I go upstairs to my room just to process it.
Yeah.
Right. Because I've never been kicked from a team.
Right.
And that's what Josh told me. He's like, I've never been kicked from a team either. So I don't know how it feels, whatever. And as I was going up the stairs, Mr. Greyhound and Simon were coming down because they were going up to leave us to talk right in the playing area. And then Simon's pretty open guy, right? He's transparent, and I've known Simon for so many years, 5+ years. He's like, oh, you get the news? I'm like, yeah. It's like, I mean, he said, sorry to hear, like, I'm sorry to hear sorry for the situation. I was like, it's all good, bro. It's all good.
Yeah.
So I go up, process the information, and then the thing about this scenario is that basically 10 days later, or in the next 10 days, is the minor call in Oz. And so I wake up the next day or the day after, and the team's praccing, right? And I'm
With
still in the
Vexite.
house with Vexite. And I'm like to myself, because I'm not the type of person that can just, like Mr. Ground was like, stay as long as you need.
Yep.
Super accommodating.
Sure.
Obviously, Gary, absolute goat. And but he, stay as long as you need. And then I was like, I'm not being productive or doing
you're not doing anything.
I can't.
If you're wallowing in your self-pity, it's going to be bad for you.
This is not benefiting me being here.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure.
So I need to leave.
Yep.
The next day, that night, I drag everything from my room downstairs.
Yep.
My dad drives on a rental in a forward drive to come
pick you up. Yeah.
fill the shit. We drive overnight, the same night, back to Sydney.
Yeah. 10-hour drive, something like that.
10-hour drive overnight, and then I'm back at home. I wish I had some video recordings of what, like, just certain things I was thinking of back then. But the craziest part about that was I wanted to go straight back into the server and play against Ground, and I had that kind of, I didn't have any hate towards any of the players, because I told him the next day right after I wanted everyone to come into TS, and I was like, I told him, look guys, like, no hard feelings. Appreciate all the memories. We had good times, some bad times, whatever. But I appreciate like everyone's time. I have no hard feelings, but I wanted to play against them in the server straight away. Yeah. And funnily enough, like, so I leave, I go back to Sydney, back into my old home. And then there's just series of events after events where it's just so many downhill moments in that period. Yep. Like I couldn't play in the minor call because I was still under contract. Yep. I get offered from Vertex at the time, but I couldn't join them because I was under contract, and there was these huge issues with order going on. So I couldn't leave the contract because it would ruin certain things. Yep. So I was like, I'm stuck here. I can't do anything with CS right now. Yep. It's really annoying. Yep. And then I have to move it out of the house because it's kind of, I don't want any sympathy or any like thing. I'm just saying what actually happened. Sure. But family lost the house over a lawsuit. And they lost the country house as well, so we had to move. I haven't told anyone this. Okay. But we lost the house, lost everything. Right. So it was kind of a blessing in disguise. Everything happens for a reason moment. Yeah. If I wasn't there to help my parents move out and help them pay for like moving and all this shit, then I don't think they would have been able to do it. Yeah. So I think it was a good period to be closer with my family.
It's kind of a good way of looking at it.
Yeah, yeah. Because I'm not... Look, my mum still raves on to this day because she doesn't have a home and all this stuff, right? And I feel bad for her. But I can't live every day looking back and thinking negatively. For sure. Because it's going to... I'm not that type of person. It's going to drive me mental. Yeah. So... I always look at things, okay, why did this happen, right? And everything, it all happened for a reason for me, at least from my perspective. And it made me realize, okay, I can't fully rely on Counter-Strike or to be number one financially. I can't rely on it financially, right? Yep. So, yeah, I couldn't really see myself at the time playing for a period. So I had to, do all these things. I do all these things. Analyst work, coach, stream.
I actually wanted to talk about the analyst work because like that was kind of like the next thing that you did. And you know, you up to that point, I don't think I'd really ever done any talent work to my knowledge. Maybe like obviously a couple of interviews here and there, but it's not nearly remotely the same thing. But what was it like kind of making that transition to being on the analyst desk? And I thought particularly it was interesting to kind of see you on the desk, because a lot of, you know, what you were talking about was like your experiences with Greyhound. It would be like, okay, well, when they play like this, they normally like to do this and that kind of thing. And so it was like a very interesting insight. But was there a little bit of you that was like, oh man, this kind of sucks?
I feel like I do give a lot of value on that analyst desk. But yeah, at the same time, I'm like looking at, you know, watching the pack stuff, and I'm like,
this could be me.
I could be there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And yeah, obviously that's playing on my mind. I'm not going to deny that. But at the time, it was a weird situation, because I'm okay comfortably financially to just chill.
Yeah.
But I knew I was paying for things right out of my pocket, and I don't have any.
You're like going down.
I don't have any income.
Sure.
Right.
Not a good feeling.
Not a good feeling, right? And I'm like, okay, if I go play CS right now, I didn't really have. I wasn't thinking. I was in survival mode. I kind of felt like playing CS at that time was a bit of a waste of time, unless I'm in Greyhound, right? Yeah. And only because I was struggling outside, right? I wasn't personally struggling, but I knew that I didn't have anything coming in, and I had to support my parents, and I had to do, you know, a bit of this, bit of that. So, I knew, you know, I did the analyst work. I actually kind of enjoyed it. But I went on a bit of a tangent there. But yeah, definitely had it back in my mind that I could be there. Yeah. You know, playing there, but playing CS in general wasn't really for me, because I knew if I eventually get removed from a team, then I have
the tap turns off.
I have no IRL skills. I'm back to square zero at 24.
Yeah. I kind of think the same thing with casting. It's like, if for whatever reason esports casting doesn't work out, and, you know, obviously right now we're in a bit of a period of like a downturn, so to speak, and it's like my income has been significantly impacted. Like I've lost 50% of the shows that I normally work on, and some of the shows that I do continue to work on are paying less, or there's less days, or this kind of thing. And it's like, what can I do to diversify my income? Actually, I want to talk to you a little bit about that at the end, once we kind of finish, because I feel like you're quite a financially minded guy. It seems like, at least. You know, we obviously don't talk a lot, but like just from the persona that you put out, that's something that I've noticed.
That period really changed that.
Right. So that was like a awakening moment.
That was a very awakening moment, and a big change, because it wasn't only just. I don't think it was only. That's why I mentioned the whole family thing. So I don't think it was just the removal at Greyhound. Yeah. It was also on top of that, right after that, my parents lost everything.
Shit went to.
I can't be playing video CS right while my parents like are struggling. Yeah, it's just not. You know what I mean? It's not a realistic situation.
Yeah. Do you ever think you'd do talent work again? Like, was it something that, like, because I think a lot of players, obviously, it would be a very easy transition to make, but I kind of get the sense that in a lot of cases, players just want to play, right? And it's like, every time I talk to a player who's doing talent, they're like, you know, this is kind of all right, but like, my passion is competing, and they are very competitive people, and you don't obviously get that same kind of drive from casting or analysis. It's like a very different, you get a lot of different things out of casting and analysis, particularly. I mean, it's different, obviously, if you're doing it in an arena or whatever. Like, casting there is very fulfilling. Yeah. But I think casting in like a studio or something, which you've obviously had some experience with, you know, it's a different vibe. Is it something that, you know, you were kind of into? Like, is it an avenue, or would you rather play or like coach, or?
I think the big problem is that every time you do some sort of analyst work and you watch the games, because you do the analyst work and then you go watch the games, and because you're watching the games, that ignites the competitive, right? I feel like you have to actually enjoy the work to do it. Yeah. I feel like I do enjoy the analyst work, because I feel like I would provide a lot of value. So I could see myself doing that. Yeah. Whether I want to do it or not, that's another question. Yeah. But someday down the line, potentially. Maybe. Potentially. Because I do see the enjoyment out of it. You know, the analyst work. I think I do provide some decent analysis of understanding of what people can people can have a better understanding through me.
Yeah.
Because I've had that
Of
experience
what's
in the team. You know, so yeah, that's potentially in the future.
Potentially. How do you like look at the game differently? Because like, I don't know. This is kind of a weird question, right? Because probably 90% of what I've done when it comes to Counter-Strike has always been looking through the lens of the spectator client. You know?
Right.
Whereas for a player, obviously 90% of what they do is through the POV of what they're doing in the game. So like when I actually play CS, it's actually really hard for me to play the game because like I'm so used to seeing X-ray and nade trails and like this and that. And it's just a very weird, like there will be a guy on my screen and I'm just like not processing that because I'm just so used to seeing the X-ray.
That's so
interesting. You know what I mean? So do you like when you're analyzing the game, like let's say you're on the analyst desk or you're sitting in the back room with, you were with Veracity and Pilly.
Yeah.
Do you like look at the game in a different way? Do you ever think about it in a different way? Or do you think about it the same way that you do like almost when you're playing? Is it like just
almost
an extension?
when I'm playing, just an extension.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking why people are doing things. I'm just like self-analyzing. Okay, they're doing this because of this. And it's just like it's
like a second nature thing.
Second nature. It's just trying to get a broad understanding of why they're doing certain things, and that's just how it is. It's a bit weird because sometimes you want to just sit there and you should just enjoy it.
Yeah.
Right, for what it is, but because you've played, it's like
you can't.
You almost can't.
Like, why are they doing that?
Yeah, it's like you always want to learn. It's like kind of this competitive.
One thing I find when I talk to a lot of players is they have a very like not tunnel visioned view of CS, but like they focus on what they do and what their team does and who they're playing against and their experiences. But when you're working on a desk or working as a caster or whatever, you have to have a more holistic view of like the scene. Like I've talked to people and it surprises me a lot actually. Like particularly when it comes to Asian CS, I feel like it should just be a natural transition for Australian players to kind of keep in mind what's happening in Asia because that's a natural pathway to a major. But I can talk to ANZ players and they will just be like, I don't even know who's playing on, like, do you know who's on Mongols right now, for example?
Yeah.
But like, I've talked to players that would just be like, I don't even know who's like on that team. Like they might be able to say like Blitz or Techno or something, but like that's it. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, did you ever find that you had to sort of look at a little bit more than what you normally would focus on?
On when I was doing
when you were doing the analysis?
100%, because there were segments where you're talking about a different qualifier that might be,
like the Middle Eastern qualifier, for example.
That or you might be doing a analysis of a game that's not even, there's no Aussie teams in it, right?
Yeah.
And the only thing I could really broaden my perspective is obviously the first and best pathway was playing against any of the teams, my experience and what it was like and what their strengths are. But then, it's just, definitely, I think a lot of it's just watching on how they play. And I think when people are just in Oz playing, you're not really watching Asia CS. You're watching either Tier 1 or the Aussie scene, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was definitely a bit harder. I had to do a little bit of research here and there.
Yeah.
But when I was talking about IHC, it was a little bit easier because I just knew how I played them multiple times, so I kind of knew. Yeah, it was.
It's just one of those little quirks that I've sort of noticed over the, probably the 5. I don't know how long I've been casting CS, probably more than that. But just talking to players, it's like they know what they know, but they don't know anything beyond, like kind of the shores of their Counter-Strike games and stuff like that, which is always a little bit funny to me. But anyway, I mean, I kind of want to move on here to like talking about where you've ended up now, because like you said, you sort of took a little bit of a break from CS. Obviously, you were still playing. I know you were streaming a lot and doing that kind of thing throughout like 2022 and obviously into 2023. And you were sort of subbing in for LFO at points, I think, and stuff like that. But like, you weren't really in a team until like obviously very recently, a couple of weeks ago or a week ago. So talk to me about that period a little bit, like just a bit trying to find yourself again.
So that period was weird because I initially got offered to join Vertex, was under contract. Then eventually I was off contract. Then Vertex decided to go, after they had Folex, they went to get Savage in that period. So then when they got Savage, because I was interested in playing, it was weird because I didn't really know exactly what I wanted. But I knew I kind of wanted to play. I didn't want to, I still loved the game, but when I did play for LFO or Encore back then, I knew that I even told them, like, look, I don't think there's a complete reason to fully practice right now, especially for me, because I'm still working out things in the background. So we all didn't really scrim. We didn't really. I wasn't watching demos. I wasn't really aim pracking. We were just playing, kind of for the sake of playing. It was kind of a bit bad, but
I mean, I think the results showed.
Yeah, for sure. We just get dumpstered by Vertex and stuff. So that was just the weird period of, I think it was maybe a bit of copium. You love the game, you want to play, but you're not fully committed, and it just sucks because I needed to sort out IRL stuff. And they were all kind of understood after Encore kind of dropped out the financial side. They kind of understood, okay, we need to like get our lives in order. We can't just play CS forever.
Right.
Without, getting paid or anything, or, just having financials going on. So that was that period. And then LFO kind of died out. We kind of spoke, let's just have a break until later. So then stopped playing, and then just decided to venture on other things IRL, and went and applied at Crown as a dealer.
I think I remember that. Yeah, you posted about it on Twitter or talked about it on your stream or something.
Yeah, so I became a dealer. I was there for 2 days and then left.
You didn't like it?
Yeah, so that was also a turning point of like, I realized I can't, like the first day was an induction day.
Yeah.
And it was in the city. It takes about an hour to get there, an hour to get back.
Yeah. We
start at 7:30 a.m. or whatever. The whole 8 hours of induction, they talk about how amazing Crown is, Crown Sydney, blah, 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 for 8 hours. And I was like, okay, I'm going to give this one more day.
You just don't buy into
because
it, hey?
I'm not someone, I couldn't give a shit about how good Crown is. Okay, I don't care.
Right? I'm sure they're not good, actually, for what it's worth. Like,
I'm sure they're amazing. I'm sure they have all these VIP people going.
Yeah.
I do not care.
Yeah.
If it's not challenging me, if it's not making me progress or learn, or
making you a better person, maybe?
Better anything. Like, I can't just mindlessly just sit there and learn about Crown and how amazing it is, and just sit there and waste. It felt like just a waste of time.
Yep.
So the second day, we were doing a bit of dealing, a little bit better, but then I was like, all this is just transactional for my time.
Yep.
I need to be using my time a lot better. So it made me realize, I quit after the second day. Made me realize, okay, I know what I want to do. I want to start building some businesses and really focus on that.
Yep.
Because I knew I can always go back to Crown. I can always go back to some job that, like an entry level job that you don't really need too many skills in.
Worst case, you can probably go lay bricks for 100 grand a year.
Whatever, right? I can always go to that. So I'm not really, I'm not struggling that much where I need the $300 a day or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I'm happy to focus on what I really enjoy, and also have a better money for my time, right? And things I can really kind of put out there that's value in the market, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So that's what I did. I just had a bigger boost of motivation from that experience, really.
Yeah, and so that was probably what, like a 6-month period or so?
That was in April for 2 days.
2 days at Crown.
But there was a bit of interviews. And
obviously up until this point now. It's
it's been 6 months.
Give or take.
Yeah, and I've just been learning about trading since Crown.
Yeah.
Really.
Well, I mean, before we get into that, I actually wanted to just touch quickly on this new LFO, whatever you guys are calling it, roster. It's called LFO V2 from what I've seen.
Yeah, we didn't know what to call it.
But, everyone knows the team that I'm talking about. It's the Hatz, Apoc, Dud, Sterling, and Savage project. So obviously it looks like a pretty decent team. I think quite easily I see that and I go, okay, instantly top 4, or in theory, that would be where I would say that old Eliminator spot. That's this team right now, prior to obviously having some time together and seeing where you can go with it.
Yeah.
Maybe a bit of a task to sort of topple Vertex and Rooster, and then further, obviously, Greyhound at that point. But it's a return to kind of Comp CS, like not only for you, but like I think Sterling took a bit of time off, Licky's taken a bit of time off. The only two that have kind of been playing recently have been Savage and Apoc Dud in that Eliminators roster. But I want to know, like, what's the expectations for the team? Are you... Like,
we're playing properly.
Yeah.
Now it's like I'm actually properly playing. I'm not doing half-ass shit. I'm trying to take a bit of trying to position or push a vision on the team as well, where to go to be successful. Putting in effort. We're scrimming. We're pracking, doing it properly.
Is this because you still like just want to play CS, or are you looking at it and saying, okay, like CS2 is coming out soon, we're expecting things to kind of be a bit of a pickup, let's position ourselves in a good spot to maybe take advantage of that, this kind of thing?
CS2 really didn't come across my mind. For me, it was like, I still feel like I can play at a high level. I should put in effort to do that, especially now that in the background I've sorted the background financial stuff. So now, since I have that, I can focus on playing CS properly, right? And I still feel like I can play CS at a high level. So, and also I enjoy it. So it wasn't really CS2. I mean, CS2 is a bonus and all that, but I think it mainly is like I want to play.
But at the moment you're unsigned, as far as I understand. Yeah. So how long does that, like if that continues, right? Let's just say you don't find an org and you're not signed, you're not paid. How long does this team last?
Well, it depends on results. Depends on results. I think, if we're not...
Sure, I guess if you make the major, right? Like,
I mean, but if we're not slowly like, beating Vertex and Rooster and like slowly over time, then maybe like we have to think about things, or maybe I have to think about things, or you know. But yeah, until then, I think that's the general pathway.
How are you feeling about the prospects in ANZ CS right now? Like in terms of now and maybe into the next like 6-12 months, are you feeling confident that there's like enough to play as a player in this region? Like how does it actually feel to be a player in this region, maybe compared to what it was like when you were playing, earlier on in your career?
I feel like we've been stagnant for a while. The scene's been stagnant for a while, like outside of Greyhound. And I think, I don't know, it's a bit... I mean, the thing is, right, as shit as it is in terms of support financially and stuff, we are getting more opportunities to go overseas than probably ever before. Or the opportunities are... the quality of opportunities is higher.
Definitely.
Right? So I think that even though in terms of our level and how much people were playing and the support backing by orgs and all this sort of stuff, I still think that it's at a good level because people can go to Pro League, people can go to...
multiple teams too.
People can go to whatever, right? And we didn't have that as much in the past. So it's just all about being second at the moment. Yeah. And then, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose the question in that regard is like, does that kind of promote a... what's the word? Like it's almost like a reverse funnel. Like, the opportunities all funnel into like the top 1 or 2 teams. And does that then make like, do you ever feel like, okay, Greyhound specifically, but maybe Vertex as well, if they're taking the majority of these second opportunities, although it's kind of been Rooster a little bit more lately, they're every time they go overseas, every time they get to play internationally, they're getting a step ahead, and we're continuing to like obviously have to play in ANZ. And you always hear from Greyhound, it's like that regression whenever they come back to ANZ. They're like, we can't find good scrims, we don't really, we can't get any better, and like even they seem to like not really enjoy or even really play that much in ANZ. So it's like, okay, if that's like the peak that you can play in ANZ, are you then continuing to fall further and further behind? Like, does it make it harder to catch up, to make it back into like a top 1 position, to take those opportunities away from them, for example? Because it doesn't feel like it's super competitive. I mean,
I'd say when you look at it like that, yes, because you're getting more experience of the metas and what's going on overseas. I feel like catching up though, like you just need to put in a ton of work to just watch a lot, to understand a lot. And I don't think that takes much time, but I think definitely, over time, a year or 2, of years of time, year or two, I think, you can definitely probably start to say that if teams are consistently going over, then potentially there might be slowly, widening the gap. But for me, I'm not really that worried about it because I know my strengths as a player. And I feel like I have a bit of a different strengths compared to other players. So I'm not really that worried.
Okay, here's one last final question that I had actually with regard to CS, and then there's like a couple of miscellaneous topics. Skyesports Masters, did they ever come knocking, and did you ever think about that? This is the India League, for those that don't know.
They did come knocking. I did get an offer. I'll be transparent about it. So the problem about what happened was I did get the offer. Everything was good. I actually signed the final part of a contract to go. But the problem was that as soon as I signed the final contract, they waited about they said that they needed to send another one for me to sign.
Right.
Even though I signed the final one, they waited about 3 or 4 weeks till they actually gave me the final one, which was the same. The only thing that was different was the start date. Now, the reason why they delayed the contract was because the tournament got pushed back and delayed. Right? So they delayed it about 4 weeks, a month. I think they didn't want, the team that offered me didn't want to pay me the extra month.
Right.
But the problem was that they didn't tell me transparently that, look, we have to delay your start date to this time because the tournament starts later. We don't want to pay you an extra month in advance, right?
Yeah.
They didn't come to me like that. They were saying all these excuses that people were sick and that we all come. It's like and it's like, okay, if I want to do work or if I want to, be in business with someone, I want transparency at least.
Sure.
And I'm happy if there's issues and you can't pay for the extra month. I don't care, right? As long as you tell me honestly, right?
I can do something else for that month with my time,
or whatever, right? But don't like have these like sly things and string me along, and then at the end, this is the start date of the final contract.
Yeah,
I don't feel easy with that, especially if I'm relocating to another country and all these factors. Especially because of that, you should be even more transparent, 100%. Right? So that's where I felt with that situation, and because that happened, I was like, no, right, and then that was the decision.
That's where we are, and now we're in LFO V2.
Pretty much.
We'll see how things go. So that's more or less the entire history of your career. Obviously we missed a few things, but like I think the vast majority of the big points. But there was a couple of like sort of little miscellaneous things that I wanted to sort of quiz you on the back end here. And it's just generally, I think, mostly to do with like your personality or your persona, because outside of Counter-Strike, I think you have two things that I've specifically noticed about you, that maybe not everyone obviously has. So the first one, you obviously kind of into fitness and like that kind of, you go to the gym, you're kind of a fit guy and stuff like that. And I kind of want to start this off going a fair way back in your career, actually. If you remember when you first started playing, like you were always that guy that like was like really close into the monitor. You had like this awful posture, and it was like, I was watching you and I was like, dude, this guy's going to have the most fucked up eyes. He's going to have like the gamer neck. But obviously you've changed that. I remember very specifically one time seeing you had like perfect posture, and you were like, I was like, holy shit, this guy's a different guy. And was that the point like where you started to like go to the gym and stuff like that, or were you like going up before?
I was always gymming. I just realized that if I want to play the game more, I need to, because I was getting like sore backs and all this stuff when I was playing the game, and I was like, okay, if I want to play the game more to get better, then I need to fix the problem before playing the game more, which was, okay, I'm getting a sore back at this certain amount of time of playing. If I want to play for longer to be better, etc., I need to fix my posture.
Sure.
So I fixed the posture, then I could play the game more, then I could be better.
Yep.
So that was just that process. And that happened 2019, really, and...
do you think it's important for players to kind of have that sort of mindset? Because like it's very easy, obviously, to be a player and just like play the game. But like you are someone who has a lot of fitness related activities outside of that. The thing is,
I've only realized this recently, right? I touch into a lot of I get very anxious and all these emotions when I don't work out.
Right.
Or when I don't, and when I'm not productive. I go into less objective thinking and more subjective and
Emotional sort of stuff.
It turns bad.
Yeah.
And I get a little bit more irritated and all these sort of factors. So, what was the question initially?
It was just, about whether or not people, if they want to be like a pro or whatever, should kind of keep in mind the fitness side of things.
Yeah, so this is how I work, and this is what I've realized. I need to keep a stable frame of mind. I need to be doing things that keep me peaceful, which is working out, which is kind of weird because working out is strenuous, but that keeps my peace later.
Yep.
If I stay stagnant and don't work out, then I'm not peaceful.
Yeah.
Right? It's weird. It's like an opposite effect. I realize this, and I feel like this is me, right? It could be different for other people, but I do feel like these sort of things are important for everyone, because what happens is when, especially for CS, it's a very big mental game. And if you're not mentally calm, and if you're unstable, it's going to affect your decisions in game. So I always have to do, I stretch in the morning, I have to work out. I've been a bit lazy in general recently, but I'm still working out.
Yep.
But I'm not crazy strenuous. But yeah, I definitely think it's important for people.
You think it helped your game?
There's a thing called a gym buff.
Okay.
No, 100%.
All right.
100%.
How much? Like, is it actually like legit?
No,
legit?
it's legit. It's legit. Okay. This is obviously,
again,
from my perspective,
personal experience.
Before the Stockholm Major, when I was playing really, really well in the BO1s, before the game, I would do 5 to 10 minutes of cardio in the morning.
Yeah.
Then to go have a shower, I'm like completely just relaxed. Then I go into the game, not really nervous, just chill, focused. I feel like there's definitly
there's benefit. Like I've seen, I don't know, like I'm not super into fitness or anything like that, and I'm not like obviously I'm not a fucking health scientist or something like that, but like I've seen and I've read like stuff about people generally when they move, when they're active, they have a higher or a better outlook on life. I don't know, and the thing is, like, I don't even know if that's true necessarily. Like, is it? But I know for me, I've recently, maybe in the last 6 months, started actually running. And right now, like, the only thing I kind of want to go and do is like, I want to go for a run right now. Because like we've been sitting in here for like nearly 3 hours, just talking. And it's like, fuck, man, like, it's good to talk to you, obviously. But like, I feel like going for a run. Like, I feel like moving, do you know what I mean? And it 100%. Makes you feel better. And I notice when I run one day and I walk one day. Like, I just alternate. And on the days where I run, when I come home, I'm like, fuck, man, I feel good, like, and I don't even really know why. It's like my legs are a bit sore from running and stuff like that. I'm tired, obviously, but like something mentally. And I like, again, I don't know if I'm just talking shit.
No,
but if it's actually a thing, it seems like to me, I could buy into that. Do you know what I mean? It's
all a thing. You know what it really helped me as well? I realized, because I used to train really, really hard. I was like, man, like when I'm training really hard, I feel like shit in the moment because it's hard, right?
Yep.
Then if something shit happens in game, okay, it's not as hard as when I feel like shit working out, right? So it's not really a big deal.
Yep.
So I'm not gonna make it a big deal.
It's like when you're doing something strenuous and your lungs are burning and you're feeling like I'm in pain, but you get through it.
And then someone jumping shoots me. This ain't the same as almost dying, on the Stairmaster.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care about getting jumping killed, right? Yeah. I feel like that is a thing itself. But I don't know if you've met many fighters in general, but fighters are like the nicest people.
Right.
And the reason why is because they know what it's like to be hurt, right? So they don't want anyone else to be hurt. It's kind of that mentality of, you get an understanding when you work out that there is shit.
There's worse things in life.
There's worse things in life.
Yeah.
So.
Interesting mentality. And I guess the other thing that I've noticed, and I think, again, like you said, this is a little bit more of a recent thing, is that you're sort of talking about money and trading. And I noticed you sort of started an Instagram profile about stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I kind of just wanted to pick your mind on that, because it sort of ties into, again, it's completely not related to CS at all. It ties into you as a person, and I think it for me as well. Like I'm 28 now. I'm turning 29 in a few days, like in a couple of weeks. And I'm kind of at that point in my life now where I'm like thinking a little bit more about stuff, and I just wonder if like maybe for the people that are watching this that are a little bit younger, do you think it's something that they should think about a little bit earlier? Like, you know, at what point do you really start thinking about that kind of thing, right? When you start thinking about, okay, what's my future looking like? I know this is maybe a boring topic for some people, but I think the older you get, I find these kinds of conversations more interesting. You know what I mean? So
that's why I said the removal of me when I got removed from ground was a slight blessing in disguise, because think about eventually, right, knock on wood, you know, some of the ground players, you know, in 5 years' time, they're probably not going to be in the team or whatever the case may happen, right?
Yeah.
They need to later, when they're older, get that experience of, okay, I'm not playing or getting any financials coming in.
Yeah.
Okay. I was lucky enough to have that happen to me. I feel like it's hard to grasp that mentality unless something's happened to you personally to get into that situation.
Yeah.
Because when I was at the ground house and we're getting paid, enjoying life, Pepsi
you're
Max,
not thinking about it.
Not thinking about it. You're enjoying life.
Yeah.
But the problem is that you're not thinking of the bigger picture of the future, and creating backup things just in case, right? Because it's all happy days until one day, you know, or you're not in the team anymore. Bam, you know, it can happen to you, right?
Yeah.
So I definitely suggest people to think about what situation you are in right now, right? Yes, it probably is a good situation, but think about if it all disappears on you, because it might happen. You know, the company that you're working for might go bankrupt.
Yep.
Whatever the case may be, think about what you can do to have backup plans, different avenues of income while you're doing your main thing.
I wonder if there's like a low-key a business opportunity there where it's like investment advice for gamers, like for pro gamers. It's like, you know, because there's like esports lawyers and management and talent agencies and that kind of things. Like, is there someone out there that's just like helping pro players who really don't know that much about the world, don't know that much about life, just helping them? Like, I'm sure these guys are sitting on lots of money.
I think.
Like, what are you doing with it? Is it just in your bank account? At that point, you know, you're probably losing money, right? So
yeah, you know, probably financial planners. You know, you just hire someone.
Like, obviously, it doesn't need to be a esports financial planner, but I think you could market yourself in that way.
100%, because you've been that person. You know, you understand that scenario, which that totally makes sense. So yeah, now there's definitely I can already see now, like, there's so many of the pro players that's definitely sitting on money, and if they're sitting, if it's all sitting in the bank, it's obviously, you know, inflation's going to eat it. So, I mean, I'm sure they're smart enough to invest it well, but I think, you know, a lot of players...
They don't think about it, probably.
Don't think about it. They just think about playing, you know, so...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right, well, that pretty much wraps us up. So, is there anything you want to say before you go?
Nothing. Just appreciate, you know, the setup. It's a good setup. I appreciate you being, having this and inviting me on. And that's pretty much about it, really.
Hey guys, just at the end of this video, I'd like to give a quick shout out to Jean, who is my first supporter on buymeacoffee.com. If you'd also like to support me financially or any of my content, make sure to check out the link. It is in the description box below.